This is the story of the one. As head of maintenance at a concert hall, he knows the show must always go on. That's why he works behind the scenes, ensuring every light is working, the HVAC is humming, and his facility shines. With Grainger's supplies and solutions for every challenge he faces, plus 24/7 customer support, his venue never misses a beat. Call quickgrainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Larry Kudlow. Now, back to the Larry Kudlow Show.
All right, so my dear friend, Ambassador Robert O'Brien, former National Security Advisor in the Trump administration, and he's chairman of American Global Strategies. He's got himself a long piece in the very distinguished journal Foreign Affairs, and it's called The Return of Peace Through Strength, making the case for Trump's foreign policy in his second term. It's a very interesting piece. I have not read the piece fully. I just got hold of it yesterday, but Robert O'Brien is a dear friend. Thank you, Robert, for doing this. Look, Robert, I want to set the stage here, and then you can just talk. Couple things in recent days that we've talked about on the TV show, for example. First, America's fiscal finances are practically bankrupt. Defense spending is now down to 2.8% of GDP. It's probably half of what it should be, maybe less than half. And we had Senator Kevin Cramer and we had Governor Doug Burgum talk about how the misuse, the political management of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve is giving China tremendous advantages, military advantages, Robert, that if any war broke out, we would be in terrible condition. We wouldn't be able to defend ourselves. They'll have fossil fuels and we won't. And then, of course, the tragedy, the catastrophe with respect to Iran. So those are just recent issues where we need some leadership on that, okay? We're not spending enough on defense. We're wrecking our fossil fuels, our Strategic Petroleum Reserve. We've let Iran literally get away with murder. You know, that's recent stuff. So you tell us the return of peace through strength.
Well, thank you, Larry, and thank you for having me on the show. I mean, we know this from our years with Ronald Reagan that the way it's counterintuitive and maybe paradoxical, but the way to deter war, the way to avoid war is to be strong. I mean, that's in the case throughout human history. And when you're weak, or when America is perceived as being weak, and the litany of problems you just rattled off, and you can add the open border to it, you can add Russia's invasion of Ukraine to it, you can add the terrible, heinous massacre of Jews in Israel on October 7th to it. When America is perceived as being weak, our adversaries then feel there's a green light to take advantage of the situation, and it leads to human misery around the world, and it leads to real threats to America.
So your point is, if you want peace, prepare for war. And we are so far away from preparing for war, Robert O'Brien. I guess that's what, and I don't regard myself as some crazy hawk. I'm not a neocon, but I am a Reaganite, and I am a Trump guy, as you are. And, you know, where is the peace through strength? I mean, what are we going to have to do? What will Mr. Trump have to do if he comes in?
Well, he's being left a terrible hand to fix, but he can do it. And we saw him do it after 8 years of Obama, of total American weakness. And what President Trump will do is he'll go back to the policies that made America great in his first term. He'll build the military, but it's got to be done, as you point out, Larry, in a smart fashion, because we don't have the money. We can't just throw money at it because the country's almost bankrupt. And so we've got to be smart about how we spend our military dollars. We've got to reform procurement. We've got to stop spending money on DEI and wokeness in the Pentagon. I mean, that's one reason we're having such a recruitment crisis is kids who play college football and college baseball and high school sports don't want to go on a losing team. And we look like losers right now. I mean, we're on defense everywhere. We talk about de-escalating. We talk about not provoking our adversaries. How about we keep our adversaries up at night? How about we complicate the lives of their planners? How about we make the life of Iranian generals and Russian generals and Chinese generals difficult instead of the other way around? And so President Trump's he'll do it, But, Larry, part of this article was written not for President Trump. It was written for President Biden. I think he's only got 6 months left in office. I think President Trump's going to win the election if you believe the polls. And I think the American people want to go back to peace and strength, and they want to make America great again. But Jimmy Carter, we remember those years. I never thought we'd be looking back at the Jimmy Carter years as the good old days, but Biden and Obama certainly made that true. After the Russians invaded Afghanistan, Jimmy Carter changed his policy. He had hawks like Zbigniew Brzezinski and Harold Brown as Secretary of Defense. And he started a defense buildup because he realized his initial policy, his first 3 years, had been wrong. And he loved America. He was a patriot. He served in the Navy. And he started to change to a peace or strength posture, which made it a little easier for Ronald Reagan to get the ball rolling. I'm calling on the Biden folks to say, look, you had your good intentions. You thought you could appease Iran. You thought you could appease Russia. You thought you could appease China. It didn't work, clearly. We've got wars all over the world. It's the most dangerous the world's been since 1938. Stop. Close the border. Go to a peace or strength posture. Start rebuilding the military. And give President Trump a head start to do what he needs to do to fix the country. And that will preserve a shred of dignity for Biden. And maybe he can leave as someone people 20 years from now will say, look, he got it wrong, but he recognized it and he tried to fix it, and he at least put things in a good place for President Trump to restore American peace or strength.
Well, Robert O'Brien, those are noble sentiments, but there's a big spread in the New York Post today regarding Ukraine and how Biden is forcing Ukraine to fight with basically one arm tied behind his back. He won't let Ukraine strike Russia, even though Russia strikes Kyiv in Ukraine all the time. I don't know. I'd like to see that whole thing, some kind of peace deal, which is one Trump talks about. But I don't think the Bidens are going to listen to you. I mean, here's the thing. Come back to this other point on the economy, Robert. Reagan ran the defense budget up to 6 or 7% of GDP. I mean, this was 40 years ago. And the latest CBO estimate, we're running the defense budget down to 2.8%. Now, I know just spending money willy-nilly is not the answer, but we're destocking our investments and our missiles. You know more about this than I do. And the trouble is, Biden's running such gigantic budget deficits overall, there's no room for spending on defense when we need it.
Yeah, you know this, Larry. The interest payments be more than our defense budget next year.
Yes.
I mean, it's shocking.
Yes.
We're going to spend more on interest, and a lot of that interest is going to Chinese who hold our bonds and other foreign governments who hold American bonds. We're paying foreigners cash more than we're spending on our warfighters.
Yes.
We're not buying them the ships and missiles and planes that they need. In fact, we may need to cancel our next generation air defense fighter because there's no money for it.
Wow. Anyway, Robert O'Brien, we're out of time. Folks, read the article. Foreign Affairs, The Return of Peace Through Strength. Robert O'Brien, former National Security Advisor. Thank you, Robert. Best to Lo Marie. Folks, I'm going to cut low, take a break, go and do some stock market work on the other side.
Long Island is more exciting than ever at Jake's 58 Casino Hotel. Get ready to zoom into some serious cash with Zoom Ball every Wednesday in June. Win up to $500,000. 1 point equals 1 entry. 2 lucky winners will be drawn at the top of every hour from 1 to 5 p.m. to play Zoom Ball. Discover the excitement at Jake's 58 Casino Hotel.
If gambling is a problem for you or someone, please call the 24-hour toll-free helpline at 877-8-HOPE or text NY.